every 40 seconds. Someone in America has a stroke. Every 3 minutes, someone dies from one. That's shocking. So pay attention to what I'll be talking about because that's nearly 800,000 lives. That's nearly 1 million lives that are shattered each year. Mothers and fathers and grandparents, even younger people today, are having strokes, their lives stolen by a thief that strikes without warning. I'm Dr. Krystosik, and we're going to be talking about something that affects millions of Americans, and they are doing something that they don't think twice about, but it's affecting their blood vessels, clogging their arteries, and causing strokes. And they're actually causing them by what's on their plates. Imagine spending a lifetime working hard, dreaming of the day you're going to be able to travel, garden, hold your grandchildren's hand, go on vacation with them, but instead you are paralyzed. You've lost your speech, or worse yet, you've had an early death. And here's the shocker. One of the biggest and silent triggers that might be sitting right between the two slices of your bread in your lunchbox, I'm talking about processed lunch meats. Lunch meats that people have every day in their lunch boxes, in their sandwiches in restaurants, in their homes. These processed meats are causing millions of people to have clogged arteries. But it's time to wake up. And the questions, what's on your plate? I'm going to expose the hidden threat that may be sabotaging your health and what you can do to protect yourself, to protect your loved ones. We're going to be diving deep into one of the most dangerous yet overlooked threats to our health, processed lunch meats. I know that might sound pretty extreme, but stick with me because you're going to understand how these convenient foods are robbing us of our health, clogging our arteries, even causing strokes. The number one cause of death worldwide, especially here in the United States. So let's dive right in and start with this sobering reality. Strokes and cardiovascular disease are killing more people than all cancers combined. Now that's staggering. And yet, while we talk about exercise and lowering cholesterol and reducing sodium in our diet, most people and most doctors never talk about the foods hiding on their plates in the middle of that sandwich, right before their very eyes. Particularly, again, your doctor is not talking about processed lunch meats. They're talking about how to take medications, and that's what they primarily focus on. But yet, processed meats like ham and turkey and bologna and salami and beef, they're loaded with harmful chemicals and compounds that silently damage your blood vessels that get clogged up, plaque. They may look harmless on your plate, but inside your body, those lunch meats are actually setting up a tiny time bomb in your body, setting up chain reactions that could lead to the plaque buildup, high blood pressure, and then eventually a stroke. So let's break it down. First, what exactly are these processed meats? Well, they're meats that have been preserved through smoking, curing, salting, and adding other chemical preservatives. And again, when you hear about smoking and putting salt on it, doesn't sound too bad, but chemicals inside of these lunch meats are devastating to the body. They use preservative methods that introduce toxic compounds inside the body, which would never be there if you were eating fresh, just regular meats that you would find in the supermarket. Basically, if you would want to eat those meats, I would suggest getting organic, pasture raised meats and pasture raised chickens. But the number one culprit in those harmful processed lunch meats is sodium nitrate and sodium nitrite. These compounds are added to meat to preserve color and to prevent bacterial growth because they sit on the shelf so long. But inside your body, they become something far more devastating. They cause the body to have a chemical reaction and they release nitrosamines. These are compounds that are highly carcinogenic and they damage your DNA, they inflame your arteries, and they suppress your body's ability to release nitric oxide. Well, let's talk about that for a minute. What is nitric oxide? Well, that's actually a natural compound that your body produces, and it's really a big deal. It's a miracle molecule that keeps your blood vessels open and flexible, and it reduces blood pressure and improves circulation, prevents arteries from becoming clogged, prevents that clot formation. It works like a WD-40 for your arteries. But when you eat processed meats regularly, the nitrates and the nitrites, they actually inhibit the enzymes in your body that uses the enzymes. Your body uses those enzymes to produce the nitric oxide, which keeps those blood vessels open up. In simple terms, your arteries stiffen up, they get inflamed, and they start to clog up. And let me bring some of the science into this because this is science-based natural medicine that we talk about here on the other side of medicine. Back in 2017, researchers found in the Journal of Clinical Hypertension, again, that's a major journal on for heart disease, they found that nitrate preservatives not only raise blood pressure, but they also reduce the production of that very, very valuable molecule called nitric oxide we talked about a few minutes ago. This is double whammy, my friends. High blood pressure and stiff arteries, clogged arteries. Adding inflammation to the mix, you've got a perfect storm for a stroke. Now, another study back in 2013 at the infamous Harvard University, and then it was published in the journal Circulation, they found that people who ate the most processed meats had a whopping 72% higher risk of dying from cardiovascular disease. That's heart attacks and strokes again. Let that sink into your mind for a minute. 72% higher risk of dying from the cardiovascular disease. So don't wait another minute to avoid a stroke. Switch to real food. Ditch the processed meats. Get rid of them completely. Let me ask you this. Is that sandwich worth the risk? Is 5 minutes of, the flavor worth a lifetime of pain, medication, or even early death? Make small changes. Instead of having the processed lunch meats 3 or 4 times a week, do it once a week. It's important to be around other people who are trying to make changes themselves. So I encourage you to join my Gut 911 RX community, the Gut 911 prescription community. But now you can jump in for a lifetime access for free and be around other people just like you who are encouraging each other, supporting each other, helping each other, learning from each other, and from me, and getting the free resources that I have available inside the community. Until then, goodbye to illness and hello to wellness. That's my motto for you and your family and your loved one. So here's to your health.